Management of left main coronary artery disease. Introduction. Significant defined as a greater than 50% angiographic narrowing, left main coronary artery disease (LMCAD) is found in 4 to 6% of all patients who undergo coronary arteriography. It is associated with multivessel coronary artery disease about 70% of the time. This topic will discuss most aspects of the management of patients with left main coronary artery disease, the approach to patients with multivessel coronary artery disease without left main coronary artery disease is discussed elsewhere. Diagnosis. The diagnosis of left main coronary artery disease is usually made by coronary angiography. Certain findings on exercise testing or in patients with acute coronary syndrome on the electrocardiogram are suggestive of left main coronary artery disease. These include diffuse and severe ST segment deviation or significant ventricular arrhythmias on ECG, monitoring or hypotension during exercise. Preventive therapies. All patients with left main coronary artery disease should receive preventative therapies known to decrease the risk of cardiovascular events, such as smoking cessation, achieving target blood pressure goal, lipid lowering therapy with statin, exercise, and proper management of diabetes. Significant left main disease. Coronary artery bypass graft surgery (CABG) with optimal preventive therapies is preferred to optimal preventive therapies alone for all patients with significant left main coronary artery disease (LMCAD). CABG significantly improves survival. Most patients with significant left main coronary artery disease are symptomatic and at high risk of cardiovascular event, since occlusion of this vessel compromise flow to at least 75% of the left ventricle, unless it is protected by collateral flow or a patent bypass graft to either the left anterior descending coronary artery or circumflex artery. Without revascularization, 3-year survival is as low as 37%. CABG, when directly compared with medical therapy, is associated with significantly better cardiovascular outcome, including mortality. In the Veteran Administration Cooperative Study performed in the 1970s, which compared a strategy of initial CABG versus deferred CABG, there was a substantial survival advantage for patients assigned to initial CABG at 2 years, about 93% versus 71%. And at 11 years, but not at 18 years, the benefit was greatest in high-risk patients with greater than 75% left main stenosis and or left ventricular dysfunction. There was a non-significant trend toward benefit in patients with 50 to 75% stenosis and normal left ventricular function. The outcome of patients with left main coronary artery disease treated with CABG have improved over time. Report of those who underwent CABG after 1995 suggests that the 30-day mortality range between 3 and 4.2% and the survival at 2 years is approximately 95%. 30-day mortality is now under 2% in some United States database. Percutaneous coronary intervention versus coronary artery bypass graft surgery (CABG) has a long track record of safety and efficacy in patients with left main coronary artery disease. The application of percutaneous coronary intervention with stenting to the left main coronary artery began in patients who were not candidates for CABG. Randomized trial and observational studies have suggested equivalent outcome with these two forms of revascularization in some patients with left main coronary artery disease. We arrive at the following conclusion regarding the studies presented below comparing CABG with PCI with stenting. The odds ratio given below come from a 2016 meta-analysis of the 4 major randomized trials discussed below, plus one smaller trial. At 1 year and longer, CABG and PCI appear to have similar rate of the combined endpoint of death from any cause, myocardial infarction and stroke, odds ratio 0.97 95% confidence interval 0.79 to 1.17. As the complexity of associated coronary artery disease increase, assessed either by the syntax score or as the number of vessels that need revascularization, the benefit in favor of CABG over PCI with stenting increase. For patients with lower complexity coronary disease who can undergo PCI at an acceptable risk and with reasonable probability for success, PCI may be an acceptable or even preferred option in some patients. Our experts prefer CABG for younger patients who have low surgical risk, for whom short-term surgical outcomes are favorable, and potentially favorable long-term outcome more meaningful. CABG is associated with a significantly higher incidence of adverse in-hospital outcome, including death, myocardial infarction, and stroke. However, the long-term rate of death, myocardial infarction, and stroke are comparable or better depending on severity of associated coronary artery disease and possibly duration of follow-up. PCI with stenting is associated with a higher incidence of repeat, usually target vessel revascularization at long-term follow-up. Odds ratio 1.85, 95% confidence interval 1.53 to 2.23. Randomized trial. The Excel, Nobel, Precombat, and Six Syntax trial directly compared CABG with PCI with stenting. Excel and Nobel are the most recent of these and were the only trial to use current generation drug-eluting stent drug test. And thus, these two trials have the greatest impact on our recommendation. The Excel trial randomly assigned 1,905 patients with left main coronary artery disease of low or intermediate anatomical complexity, syntax score of 32 or lower, to either PCI with a goal of complete revascularization with everolimus eluting stent or CABG. At 3 years, the primary endpoint, a composite of death from any cause, stroke, or myocardial infarction, occur at a similar rate in both groups. It is about 15.4 versus 14.7%, hazard ratio 1, 95% confidence interval 0.79 to 1.26. There were no significant between group differences in the 3 years rate of the components of the primary endpoint. The secondary endpoint of death, stroke, or myocardial infarction at 30 days occur less often in patients with the PCI group, about 4.9 versus 7.9%, due mainly to a lower rate of myocardial infarction. The secondary endpoint of death, stroke, myocardial infarction, or ischemia-driven revascularization at 3 years occur more often with PCI. It is about 23.1 versus 19.1%. At 5 years, the primary outcome occurred at a similar rate in both groups, about 22.0 versus 19.2% respectively. Difference 2.8 percentage point. Odds ratio 1.19, 95% confidence interval minus 0.9 to 6.5. Death from any cause, a secondary outcome, occur more frequently in the PCI group, about 13.0 versus 9.9%. Odds ratio 1.38, 95% confidence interval 0.2 to 6.1. Due to a statistically non-significant greater number of non-cardiovascular death. The rate of ischemia-driven revascularization was higher with PCI. It is about 16.9 versus 10.0%. Odds ratio 1.84, 95% confidence interval 1.39 to 2.44. The Nobel trial randomly assigned 1,201 patients without ST elevation myocardial infarction to complete revascularization with either PCI using a Biolimus eluting stent, or CABG. Using Kaplan-Meier 5-year estimates median follow-up of 3.1 years, the primary endpoint of major adverse cardiac or cerebrovascular event, a composite of all-cause mortality, non-procedural myocardial infarction, and repeat coronary revascularization and stroke, occur more often with PCI. It is about 29 versus 19%. Hazard ratio 1.48, 95% confidence interval 1.11 to 1.96, attributable mainly to more frequent vascularization in the PCI group. There was also a higher rate of non-procedural myocardial infarction and stroke, the latter of which is not consistent with all other trials. After 4.9 years follow-up, the 5 years Kaplan-Meier estimate of the primary endpoint were 28 and 19%, respectively. Hazard ratio 1.58, 95%, confidence interval 1.24 to 2.01. There was no difference in all-cause mortality, 9% in both groups. Revascularization occurred significantly more often after PCI, as did not procedural myocardial infarction, 15 versus 10 and 9 versus 3% respectively. The pre-combat trial randomly assigned 600 patients with unprotected left main coronary artery disease to PCI with sirolimus eluting stent or CABG. The primary endpoint of major adverse cardiac or cerebrovascular event, death from any cause, myocardial infarction, stroke, or ischemia-driven target vessel revascularization at 1 year met the criteria for non-inferiority of PCI. The event rate were 8.7 and 6.7% for PCI and CABG. Absolute risk difference 2 and 95% confidence interval minus 1.6 to 5.6 respectively, and the difference was attributable to the expected higher rate of ischemia-driven target lesion revascularization in the PCI group, about 6.1 versus 3.4%. The two groups had similar rate of the other individual component of the composite. At 2 years, the event rate for the primary outcome was still higher, but not significantly different with PCI. It is about 12.2 versus 8.1% with CABG. The difference between the two groups was due to a statistically significant higher rate of ischemia-driven target lesion revascularization with PCI. It is about 9 and 4.2%. The rate of stroke did not differ significantly. It is about 0.4 versus 0.7%. At 5 years, the event rate for the primary outcome was 17.5 and 14.3% in the PCI and CABG group, with the difference being not statistically different. Ischemia-driven target lesion revascularization remained the principal reason for the higher rate in the PCI group. Consistent with other studies, there was an advantage for CABG with left main plus 3 vessel disease, with hazard ratio 3.05, 95% confidence interval 1.29 to 7.21. A subgroup analysis of the SYNTAX trial, which randomly assigned 1,800 patients with multivessel of left main coronary artery disease to either stenting with a paclitaxel eluting stent or CABG, evaluated outcome in the 705 patients with left main coronary artery disease. Among patients with left main coronary artery disease, 35% had left main coronary artery disease alone or associated with single vessel disease. In this subgroup analysis, the primary outcome, the 12-month rate of major adverse cardiac or cerebrovascular event, MACE, death from any cause, stroke, myocardial infarction, or repeat revascularization was not significantly different in the PCI and CABG group. It is about 15.8 versus 13.7%. Patients with PCI had a significantly higher rate of repeat revascularization, about 11.8 versus 6.5%. Outcome according to the complexity of disease were evaluated and the following findings were noted. The rate of the primary outcome with PCI increased significantly as the number of vessels with associated disease increased. It is about 7.1, 7.5, 19.8, and 19.3% for 0, 1, 2, and 3 vessel associated disease respectively. The comparable rate for CABG patients were 8.5, 13.2, 14.4, and 15.4% respectively. When grouped according to the syntax score, patients with low syntax score less than 23 or intermediate with syntax score 23 to 32 score did not differ significantly with respect to the primary outcome comparing PCI with CABG. However, those with high syntax score more than 32 score had a significantly higher rate of the primary outcome with PGI. It is about 25.3 versus 12.9%. 5-year outcome for the 705 patients in Sintak with left main coronary artery disease have been reported and are consistent with the finding at 12 months. The primary outcome was similar between the PCI and KPH group. It is about 36.9 versus 31% respectively. Hazard ratio 1.23, 95% confidence interval 0.95 to 1.59. In patients with low or intermediate syntax score, MACE was similar between the two groups, but was significantly higher in PCI patients with score more than 33. It is about 46.5 versus 29.7%. Observational studies. Several observational studies with follow-up between 30 days and 5 years have compared deaths with CABG for patients with left main coronary artery disease. Given the inherent confounding by indication and the availability of contemporary randomized trial, we have not based our recommendation on these studies. Percutaneous coronary intervention with stenting. The application of primer the application of PCI with stenting of the left main coronary artery began in patients who were not candidates for CABG. With improvement in outcome, PCI has become a viable option for many patients with left main disease. If left main PCI is being considered, it should not be performed immediately after coronary arteriography. The patient should hear opinion from a multidisciplinary team prior to deciding on a revascularization strategy. Exceptions to this principle include patients who are unstable and need immediate revascularization in the catheterization laboratory, or those in whom CABG is not an option for any reason. The use of PCI in patients with protected lesion is discussed below. The rate of target vessel revascularization is significantly lower with DASH compared with bare metal stent in patients with left main coronary artery disease. In almost all cases, we use DASH, and we prefer second generation DASH. Non-distal lesion. Data are limited regarding outcome with PCI in patients who do not require stenting of the distal left main coronary artery, in part because this site is involved in the majority of cases. One observational study reported the following outcome after placement of a DASH in 146 patients who had left main lesion involving the ostium and or the mid-shaft non-bifurcation. In hospital, there were no cardiac death, 1 non-cardiac death, no Q-wave myocardial infarction, and 5 non-Q-wave myocardial infarction, 3.4%. In hospital, there were no cardiac death, 1 non-cardiac death. There were no cardiac death, 1 non-cardiac death, no Q-wave myocardial infarction, and 5 non-Q-wave myocardial infarction, 3.4%. In the 106 patients who underwent angiographic follow-up at 4 to 6 months, mean lumen loss was 0.01 mm, and restenosis occurred in only one patient, about 0.9%. At the mean follow-up of 886 days, there were 5 deaths. It is about 3.4% cumulative mortality. 1 target lesion was revascularization, and 7, it is about 4.7% target vessel revascularization. Distal lesion. The distal left main coronary artery is involved in the majority of cases. It is about 60 to 94% of lesion, and the result of PCI are worse than for lesion located at the ostium or mid-shaft. For patients with unprotected distal left main disease and involvement of the origin of both the left anterior descending coronary artery and circumflex, we prefer a dedicated two-stent approach in most patients in whom PCI will be performed. Based on the result of the DECA-CRASH 5 trial discussed below, we believe the double casing crash technique may be the best strategy. In cases where both origins are large and free of significant disease, a planned single stent strategy may still be the best option. Let me read it one more. In cases where both origins are large and free of significant disease, a planned single stent strategy may still be the best option. The overall rate of restenosis is low after stenting for left main coronary artery disease, with rate of target lesion revascularization less than 5% for disease limited to the osteum or mid lesion and single stent approach into the left anterior descending coronary artery. The rate of repeat target lesion revascularization is higher for distal lesion involving both origin, with the circumflex origin especially vulnerable to recurrence. Outcome in patients treated for distal disease have been evaluated in several older observational studies using first-generation DES in a retrospective cohort analysis that compare outcome with one or two stent technique for distal disease. The rate of all-cause death was around 15%, and the rate of target lesion revascularization was between 17 and 26% at 5 years. The optimal stenting technique for distal left main lesion is not known. In many cases, the best approach may be determined by the specific anatomy. PCI of the distal left main coronary artery is technically challenging, and patients with potentially complicated anatomy should be treated only by highly skilled interventional cardiologists. The challenges are greater for bifurcation lesion involving both origins. A variety of approaches to PCI of the distal left main coronary artery have been evaluated in clinical trial, and these include provisional stenting (PS) refer to an intent to stent only the left main coronary artery, with the distal end of the stent ending up in the left anterior descending coronary artery, usually, or the circumflex coronary artery. With this technique, the side branch is often jailed. Balloon angioplasty is often performed on the non-stented side branch, either the circumflex or left anterior descending artery. A second stent is applied to the side branch, often with a technique for suboptimal balloon angioplasty result. The double kissing DECA-CRASH technique used to stent. With this technique, both vessels are wired and initial inflation of both origin is performed. The side branch, usually the circumflex, is stented first, with a small portion, approximately 1 mm of the stent, extended into the left main coronary artery. The circumflex wire is removed, and the protruding segment is crushed with an angioplasty balloon extending into the main vessel, which is usually the left anterior descending coronary artery. The circumflex is rewired, and the first casing balloon inflation is performed. A stent is then placed from the left main to the left anterior descending coronary artery. The circumflex is again rewired, and sequential high-pressure inflation of the left anterior descending coronary artery and circumflex are performed, followed by the final casing balloon inflation at lower pressure. With the T-stent technique, which is generally used for a side branch that originates at a 70 to 90 degree angle from the left main coronary artery, a second stent is placed at the origin of the side branch. With the T-stent technique, which is generally used for a side branch that originates at a 70 to 90 degree angle from the left main coronary artery, a second stent is placed at the origin of the side branch. With the culotte technique, both vessels are usually wired, and initial inflation of both origins is performed. A first stent is then placed into either left anterior descending coronary artery or circumflex and extended into the left main coronary artery to fully cover the lesion. The stent should be sized according to the distal part of the lesion, and the proximal segment must be then be optimized with angioplasty using an appropriately sized non-compliant balloon proximal optimization technique (POT). The other vessel is then rewired through a stent strut. A balloon inflation is performed to open the stent strut, and then the second stent is delivered to also extend into the left main coronary artery. The first stent vessel is then rewired through the side of the second stent. After sequential high pressure inflation within each stent, a final kissing inflation is then performed. Early studies suggested that outcomes were poor when distal left main bifurcation lesions are treated by a two-stent approach. Early studies suggested that outcomes were poor when distal left main bifurcation lesions are treated by a two-stent approach, such as crush or kissing stent, rather than with provisional stenting. In these earlier studies, the rate of target lesion revascularization, mostly by repeat catheter-based intervention with drug-eluting stent, was as high as 25%. Restenosis was essentially confined to distal lesion, the majority of which had been treated with stent in both branches. The following randomized trials have compared two or the approach described above in patients with unprotected distal left main bifurcation lesion. The DECA-CRUSH-3 study randomly assigned 490 patients to a double kissing crush or a culotte technique. The primary composite endpoint, cardiac death, myocardial infarction, and TVR at 1 year, target vascularization, target vessel vascularization at 1 year, occur more often in the culotte group, about 16.3 versus 6.2%, with significantly 0.001, attributable mainly to an increased rate of target vessel vascularization 11 versus 4.3%. This trial does not address if either dedicated to stent approach is superior to provisional stenting. This question was addressed in the DECA-CRUSH-5 trial. The DECA-CRUSH-5 trial randomly assigned 482 patients to DECA-CRUSH stenting or provisional stenting. At 1 year, the primary composite endpoint of target lesion failure, cardiac death, target vessel myocardial infarction, or clinically driven target lesion revascularization occur less often with the former, about 5.0 versus 10.7%, hazard ratio 0.42, 95% confidence interval 0.21 to 0.85. The risk of target lesion revascularization was lower with the DECA-CRUSH technique. The risk of target lesion revascularization was lower with the DECA-CRUSH technique. It is about 3.8 versus 7.9%, as was the rate of protocol mandates. Angiographic restenosis at 13 months, 7.1 versus 14.6%. Long-term outcome. The best available data for long-term outcome with stenting of left main coronary artery disease come from the large EXCEL and NOBLE randomized trial which compare PGI and CABIT discussed above. Patients with acute myocardial infarction. There are limited data on the use of PGI in patients with acute myocardial infarction due to left main coronary artery disease. Although small series noted in hospital mortality rate of 30 to 35% following PGI with or without stenting. Not surprisingly, the outcome in such patients are worse than in those with left main coronary artery disease who undergo elective PGI. The cases reported represent a selected group that survived to reach the cardiac catheterization laboratory. More observational studies have reported lower in-hospital mortality rate ranging from 11 to 21%. More data are available in patients with cardiogenic shock, complicating acute myocardial infarction in the shock trial registry. 16% of patients had had significantly left main coronary artery disease, although not necessarily left main occlusion. Although the patient who underwent angiography had a lower baseline risk and better hemodynamic profile than those who did not, mortality in this patient was higher than in those with circumflex left anterior descending coronary artery or high coronary artery lesion, about 79 versus 37 to 42%. More data are available in patients with cardiogenic so complicating acute myocardial infarction in the SOC trial registry. 16% of patients have significantly left main coronary artery disease, although not necessarily left main occlusion. Although the patient who underwent angiography had a lower baseline risk and better hemodynamic profile than those who did not, mortality in this patient was higher than in those with circumflex left anterior descending coronary artery or right coronary artery lesion, about 79 versus 37 to 42%. The potential efficacy of PGI was illustrated in a report from an observational registry of patients with unprotected left main stenosis. 40 patients with an acute myocardial infarction, about 37 of whom had cardiogenic shock, underwent emergency PGI, 17 with stenting. The rate of in-hospital death about 35 versus 70%, and need for CABG 6 versus 22%. Were lower in those who received a stent compared with primary percutaneous transluminal coronary angioplasty alone. Stenting was also associated with a higher survival rate at 12 months. It is about 53 versus 35%. Other consideration: the following intervention have been evaluated in patients with left main coronary artery disease undergoing PCI with stenting. Circulatory assist. Some patients selected for left main PCI require advanced cardiac support, such as with an intra-aortic balloon pump due to increased risk for hemodynamic compromise during the procedure. Debulking. Left main lesions are frequently calcified, and debulking with rotational atherectomy has been performed prior to stenting in some patients. Follow-up angiography. We do not recommend routine follow-up with coronary angiography in patients who have undergone left main PCI with DASH, while these patients remain at relatively high risk for recurrent event. Follow-up angiography does not predict the development of stent thrombosis. While these patients remain at relatively high risk for recurrent event, follow-up angiography does not predict the development of stent thrombosis. Follow-up angiography. We do not recommend routine follow-up with coronary angiography in patients who have undergone left main PCI with DASH. While these patients remain at relatively high risk for recurrent event, follow-up angiography does not predict the development of stent thrombosis. Protected lesion. Patients with a patent bypass graft to either the left anterior descending coronary artery or circumflex who are considered to be protected may require left main intervention because of recurrent ischemia. Protected lesions are anatomically similar to those not previously bypassed. However, their physiology during treatment and the consequences of a blood closure and restenosis are much more forgiving because of continued flow to the protected territory. The outcome of such protected left main intervention is more favorable than when there is no patent graft to the left coronary system. In essence, stenting is in this circumstance is being performed for a single vascular territory. Left main equivalent disease. Left main equivalent disease defined as severe more than 70% proximal left anterior descending coronary artery and proximal left circumflex disease carries a poor prognosis, although somewhat better than left main coronary artery disease. The largest experience with such patients come from the CAS registry. About 912 patients with left main equivalent disease at more than 16 years follow-up. Coronary artery bypass graft surgery (CABG) was associated with significant increase in mean survival, 13.1 versus 6.2 years, and the likelihood of survival about 44 versus 31%. 26% of medically treated patients ultimately underwent CABG. In that Determinate disease. Some patients have indeterminate left main coronary artery disease, LMCAD. This term is used when left main lesion severely is difficult to quantify by angiography but appear to be approximately 50%. In such patients, the decision between coronary artery bypass graft surgery, CABG, as medical therapy is difficult. Adjunctive testing with either fractional flow reserve (FFR) or intracoronary ultrasonography (IFUS) have been used to guide therapy in such patients. The following findings have been noted in observational studies. In a report of 213 patients with angiographically equivocal left main coronary artery stenosis, 138 with an FFR more than 0.80 were treated medically, or another stenosis were treated with percutaneous coronary intervention, and 75 with an FFR less than 0.80 were treated with CABG. The 5-year survival estimates were not significantly different between the two groups, about 90 and 85% respectively. In a series of 121 patients with angiographically normal left main coronary arteries, the lower ring of normal left main minimum luminal area (MLA), let me repeat once more, minimum luminal area (MLA) was 7.5 mm percentage using IFUS. Using this information, IFUS was performed on 214 patients with indeterminate left main lesion. Left main revascularization, mostly using CABG, was performed in the majority of the 38 patients with an minimum luminal area less than 7.5 mm, but was differ in the majority of the 131 patients with a minimum luminal area more than 7.5 mm. At mean follow-up of 3.3 years, there was no significant difference in major adverse cardiac event, target vessel revascularization, myocardial infarction, or death. The study was not designed to address the question of whether all left main stenosis with a minimum luminal area less than 7.5 mm require revascularization. In a prospective study of 354 patients with left main coronary artery disease who underwent IFUS, revascularization was differ in 96% if the minimum luminal area was more than 6 mm and performed in 91% in the minimum luminal area was less than 6 mm. After 2-year follow-up, cardiac death-free survival was not significantly different between the two groups. It is about 98% and 95% respectively. We recommend either IFUS or FFR assessment to assist in the decision for CABG in patients with indeterminate disease. We believe these observational studies show that assessment may define a group for whom differing surgery does not lead to worse outcome. Non-significant disease. Asymptomatic patient with left main lesion felt to not be hemodynamically significant should be managed with preventative therapies. Patients with angina symptom attributable to lesion elsewhere should be managed with therapies similar to those used in other patients with coronary artery disease. Recommendation of others. Guidelines on myocardial revascularization were published by the European Society of Cardiology or European Association for Cardiothoracic Surgery and the American College of Cardiology Foundation, American Heart Association, American College of Physicians, American Association for Thoracic Surgery, and etc. Both groups felt that coronary artery bypass graft surgery was preferred to percutaneous coronary intervention in all patients except for those with a syntax score less than 22, where PCI was felt to be a reasonable strategy. Okay, I think that is very important, so I would like to highlight this sentence. Then I would like to read it again. Okay. Let me repeat once more. Both groups felt that coronary artery bypass graft surgery (CABG) was preferred to PCI in all patients except for those with a syntax score less than 22, where PCI was felt to be a reasonable strategy. Society guideline link, okay. Summary and recommendation. For patients with left main coronary artery disease, we recommend revascularization as opposed to medical therapy. The composite outcome of death, myocardial infarction, and stroke is similar in patients with left main coronary artery disease who are treated with coronary artery bypass graft surgery, CABG, or PCI, percutaneous coronary intervention. However, the rate of target vessel revascularization is higher with PCI. Some subgroup of patients with left main coronary artery disease are likely to do better with CABG. Those with associated 2 or 3 vessel disease, particularly with those with either high-risk score such as SYNTAX, or those who are unlikely to be fully revascularized with PCI. Some subgroup of patients with left main coronary artery disease are likely to do better with CABG. This group include those with associated 2 or 3 vessel disease, particularly with those with either high-risk score such as SYNTAX score, or those who are unlikely to be fully revascularized with PCI. Patients with poor left ventricular systolic function, such as those with left ventricle ejection fraction less than 30%, although these patients were not evaluated in the above randomized trial. For patients with unprotected left main coronary artery disease who are reasonable surgical candidate, we recommend CABG as opposed to PCI if there is associated 3 vessel disease or 2 vessel disease with a high SYNTAX score. We suggest CABG as opposed to PCI in patients with left main only or 1 or 2 vessel disease and a low SYNTAX score. We suggest CABG as opposed to PCI in patients with left main only or 1 or 2 vessel disease and low SYNTAX score. Those patients who have been fully informed of the relative benefit and risk of the two procedures and who have a strong preference to not undergo CABG may reasonably choose PCI. In most cases, a thorough discussion of the relative risks and benefit of the two forms of revascularization should take place after coronary angiography between the patient and a healthcare team that involve an interventional cardiologist and a cardiothoracic surgeon at a minimum. In most cases, a thorough discussion of the relative risks and benefit of the two forms of revascularization should take place after coronary angiography between the patient and the healthcare team, and that involve an interventional cardiologist and a cardiothoracic surgeon at a minimum. Some patients may proceed directly to PCA after coronary arteriography. Patients presenting with acute coronary syndrome who have left main occlusion and who are hemodynamically unstable. Such patients require emergent revascularization, with PCI generally being the most expedient and safe choice. Patients who are not surgical candidates who have been informed of the benefit and risk of PCI before the procedure. Thank you.